Good morning, everybody. It is time for math. So I hope that you are ready to learn today. You are going to need a piece of paper and a pencil out because like I sent you the message today, we are going to do the assignment together. So if you are in another class and you're watching this video, I'll tell you when we start the assignment and you can stop watching. Okay, so what is a number line? What do you know about a number line? I want you to pause your video right here, and if you have somebody to talk to, I want you to talk to them about it. What's a number line? What do you know about a number line? Tell them everything you know. So this is a tenths number line. And so let's see if I can get this to work, guys. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna write a 1 right here. And a 2 right here. Okay, so in between the 1 and the 2, there are 10 tenths. So there's 1/10, 1 and 1/10. There's 1 and 2/10. There's 1 and 3/10. There's 1 and 4/10. There's 1 and 5/10. 1 and 6/10. 1 and 7/10. 1 and 8/10. 1 and 9/10. And then there's 2, and we can see the whole numbers as looking like this. So you've got 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1, and you're counting all the way up by tenths. So if I had the whole number 2 and the whole number 3, and remember we can see them like this, I would know that this is 2 and 1/10, 2 and 2/10, 2 and 3/10, 2 and 4/10, 2 and 5/10, 2 and 6/10, 2 and 7/10, 2 and 8/10, 2 and 9/10, and 3. So there are 10 tenths for in between every single whole number. And I just want to remind you that this is the same as this. Just because there is a 0 after a whole number, or not a whole number, a 0 after the first number that you see does not mean that it changes the value of that number. So 3/10, let's make my decimal point a little bit darker. 3/10 and 30/100 is the exact same thing. So I want to look at a hundredths number line, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. I want to look at a hundredths number line. So you notice that, there we go. It just went a little crazy on us. So we notice that we have a whole number here, 1, and a whole number here, 2. Look at everything in between that 1 and 2. So we see that there are 10 tenths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's our 10 tenths. But there's also all of these hundredths. So if I can zoom in, we are going to label those hundredths. So this is, we're going to try to do it sideways, guys. 1 and 100th, 1 and 200ths, 1 and 300ths, 1 and 400ths, 1 and 500ths, 1 and 600ths, 1 and 700ths, 1 and 800ths, 1 and 900ths, and then you get to 1 and 10/100ths, because remember I told you that you can add a 0 behind here and it doesn't change the value. So I went from 1.09 to 1.10. So 1/10 is the same as 1 and 100th. So then when I go to the next, let's see if I can scoot over. When I go to the next one, I'm just going to keep counting. So 1 and 10/100ths, I'm going to go to 1 and 11/100ths, 1 and 12/100ths, 1 and 13/100ths, 1 and 14/100ths, 1 and 15/100ths, 1 and 16/100ths, 1 and 17/100ths, 1 in 1800s, 1 in 1900s, and then 1 in 2000s or 1 and 2/10. So 1 in 2000s or 1 and 2/10. So let's move over. I want to go to the end because I want you to know how many hundredths are in between two whole numbers. So we have 1 in 90/100ths, 1 in 90, ooh, that was not a 1, guys. 1 in 92/100ths, 1 in 93/100ths, 1 in 94/100ths, 1 in 95/100ths, 1 in 96/100ths, 1 in 97/100ths, 1 in 98/100ths, 1 in 99/100ths, and whoa, 1 in 99/100ths. And then we have our whole number. Our whole number can be represented like this, 2.00, and that's 200. So if I have, that looks like 200. So there are 100 hundredths in between two whole numbers. In between two whole numbers, there are 100 hundredths, and there are 10 tenths. So I want to look at some practice before we get started with our assignment. I want to get started with some practice. So we are going to practice putting tenths on a number line. So let's make this a little bigger so you can see it. I know this is not like my last video. Remember, my sound wasn't working this morning, so I had to record it a little bit different today. Okay, so the question is, what decimal is represented by the point on the number line? So we've got to count by tenths, and we've got to figure out what decimal lands right here. So let's go ahead and start labeling the entire number line. So I know 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and a whole, because there are 10 tenths in between two whole numbers. Between 0 and 1, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, there are 10 tenths. So this dot is 7/10. 7/10. So let's look at this one. It wants us to represent 3/10 on the number line. So first things first, we've got to label the number line. So 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and a whole. And I know to label it by tenths and not by hundredths because our numbers that they have on here for us are whole numbers. They're not decimal numbers. So I know that we're going to be labeling tenths. So it wants us to represent 3/10. So we go to our 3/10. We put our little dot there, and boom. That is 3/10. Okay, so let's erase this and let's look at hundredths real quick. So what decimal is represented by the point on the number line? It looks like it's right smack dab in the middle, doesn't it? All right, so as you can see, it's asking us, okay, look right here, and between 1/10 and 2/10, what's right in the middle of that? So like I said, I knew the last time that the reason I should do tenths is because there were whole numbers on the end, but now I see that there are tenths on the end, there are decimals on the end, so I need to do hundredths. So I've got 11 hundredths, 12 hundredths, 13 hundredths, 14 hundredths, 15 hundredths, 16 hundredths, 1700s, 1800s, oops, 1900s, and then remember this can be 2/10 or 20 hundredths, and this can be 1/10 or 10 hundredths. So I just counted 10 hundredths, 11 hundredths, 12 hundredths, 1300, 1400, 1500, 1600, and I know right in the middle is 1500. So this is represented on that number line, 1500ths. And now it's asking us to represent 2300ths on the number line. So we have a tenth and a tenth, so I know I'm going to have to start labeling hundredths. Not to mention this is in the hundredths. So we need to label hundredths. So we're going to start by, do y'all know what that number is? Can y'all tell me what that number is? I hope you said, Miss Simpson, that's 2100ths. Duh. And Miss Simpson, that's 2200ths. Would you speed it up? If you didn't, no big deal. We have plenty of practice. Don't you worry. 2300ths, 2400ths, 2500ths, 2600ths, 2700ths, 2800ths, 2900ths, and then 3/10, or 30 hundredths. All right. So we have to represent 2300ths after we already labeled it, and we see that 2300ths is right there. So we put our little dot right there. All right, you guys. So today, for your assignment, if you're in my room, if you're in my homeroom, you're going to be doing the work with me because of our technology problems. That happens way too often. But if you are in another homeroom and you are watching my videos, your teacher should be giving you some cards or some examples of cards. So it says label each number line below and identify the point shown. So you'll label your number line and then you'll tell me what that point is. You might get one that just says fill in the blanks between 1/10 and 2/10, 3/10 and 4/10, and you'll be able to fill in the blanks with the hundredths. You might get one that asks you to plot a number between 2/10, and you will be able to do that one. All right, you guys. If you are in another homeroom, I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for joining our lesson today. If you're in my rooms, get a piece of paper, get a pencil, and we are going to do our homework. Okay, so on the top of your paper, I want you to write, number lines, and I want you to write your name in the top corner. Okay, so we are going to start with just one of these. So I'm going to copy this down on my paper, and I'm going to make it bigger than this margin right here because it'll be easier for me. Please make sure you're doing this in pencil. I know I'm doing it in marker, but it's because pencil doesn't show up very well on this board. Okay, so we are going to copy this down on our paper, and we're going to do our tenths. And we have to label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I am not going to draw those blanks because I know that we are labeling a number line. All right, if you need to pause at any time because I'm going too fast, please pause. No big deal. Please, please, please pause. So we have to label the hundredths in between. Okay, we have to label the hundredths in between 1/10 and 2/10. Remember, this is just like, I'm going to get a pencil. Let's see if y'all can see it. Well, here it is. This is just like saying 10 and 20. So I'm going to label the first one, and then I want you to label the rest. So we'll start off with 11 hundredths. So I want you to go ahead and label the rest. If you need to pause the video, please pause the video, but I want you to go ahead and label the rest of the number line. All right, so I hope that you got 12 hundredths, 13 hundredths, 14 hundredths, 15 hundredths, 16 hundredths, 17 hundredths, 18 hundredths, 19 hundredths, and then 2 tenths or 20 hundredths. All right, I want you to write next to this one, label, and draw a line underneath it. I want you to write label and draw a line underneath it. Okay, so push this paper down. We're going to do another one. So we're going to copy this one onto our paper. So let me copy it. I'm going to be in front of the board. Let me copy it real quick, and then I'll let you see my paper. Make sure you're leaving some space when you do your number lines because you're going to need it. Okay, I want you to draw that on your paper. If you need to pause the video for some time, please feel free to pause the video. All right, so it's asking us, identify this point. So what I want you to do is I want you to label your number line with the hundredths. I want you to label your number line. When you're done, I want you to put a box, like I did on that past one, a box around what that decimal is showing us, or what that point is showing us, I mean. So pause the video and do that, and then when you're done, come back and we'll check it together. Okay, so you should have done 21 hundredths, 22 hundredths, 23 hundredths, 24 hundredths, 25 hundredths, 26 hundredths, 27 hundredths, 28 hundredths, 29 hundredths, and then 3 tenths or 30 hundredths. And then you should have put a box around 24 hundredths because that is what that number line is showing. On this one, I want you to put identify next to it. Identify. And then you're going to scoot down. Again, if you need to pause it, please feel free to do so. And you're going to draw this next number line. Okay, it is asking us to plot 37 hundredths. That's what it's asking us to do. So we have to first start by labeling the number line. So I want you to label the number line and then plot by putting a circle on 37 hundredths. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to do that and then come back and check it with me. Okay, so you should have 31, 32 hundredths, 33 hundredths, 34 hundredths, 35 hundredths, 36 hundredths, 37 hundredths, 38 hundredths, 39 hundredths, and then 40 hundredths or 4 tenths. And you should have put a dot right here. And then you're going to write next to it, plot. All right, you guys, that is your work for today. Yours should look exactly like mine, just in your handwriting. So you need to take a picture of the whole paper so I can see the whole thing, and you need to upload it to Canvas. There's no other submission today. It is just taking a picture of what we just did together and uploading it to Canvas since I was having some technology problems today. If you need anything, hop on Zoom. I can go over this with you. We can go a little bit slower, a little bit faster, whatever you need. I'd be happy to help you. Just let me know what you need. Hop on Zoom, please, 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 please let me help you. All right, I love you guys. Have a great day.